What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Tequila Tuesday. Thank you for joining me tonight. We're brought to you on behalf of Sendoso, Scotty's Little Sales Club's official sending partner. And we're going to talk about something that I know very little about, admittedly, but what I do know about it, I actually have never liked. And I'm interested to learn more about this and maybe spar a little bit or debate a little bit with our guest, David Weiss. If you don't know David, he was at Outreach for quite a long time. He also runs a really cool podcast that I was a part of a while back. And he's a relatively brand new VP of sales at a company called LeaseUp that is in the commercial real estate tech space, based out of the Boston area, I believe. You might have seen me post about that gig being open in Patreon a few times. David was the man to fill the gig, get the job, and we were just chatting. He's kind of off to a great start and enjoying it. So David's going to talk to us about MEDDPICC, which, again, I know very little about. Some of you probably know more than me, so I'm really excited to take a step back a little bit, moderate this conversation, take a bunch of notes and learn. And hope you all enjoy it as well. David, thanks so much for being here, man.
Scott, you're the man. Thank you, and thank you for the reco on LeaseUp. It's been great, and I credit you for it. So thank you for that, sir.
You're welcome.
Hey, before we get started, or maybe we do this in like a slide or two, but I kind of want to know the things you don't like about MEDDPICC, because I think I may know what they are, and I'd love to get that out early, but I don't know.
You're gonna make me answer that already?
Okay, we'll wait. I actually have.
Okay, let me give you one straight away. Okay.
Yeah.
There's 8 fucking letters in the acronym. That is just way too much for me. Okay. Dude, I have a bias towards simplicity, and 8-letter acronyms is not simple. We'll just start right there.
I mean, I've got this book on my desk that's 93 pages. I mean, 8 letters is way less than 90.
Oh, that's a book. That's not an acronym, David. Come on.
That's fair. All right. You got me on that one. You win on that. 8 letters, but they're 8 really good letters. So we'll talk about that more. All right, cool. So we'll dig into some other things you may not like here in a second. But so what are we doing today, folks? So what we're doing today is what I like calling a rapid fire deal review. So what I try and do in these sessions is not get up here and just talk at you and try and train you on MEDDPICC. I've been practicing this methodology now for almost 10 years. There's no way I could do it justice in an hour. But what I can do is I can walk you through a deal that you are working right now and maybe help you see a gap in one of your own deals. So my ask to everyone that's listening to this, please just pull up any deal that you are actively engaged with right now. Think of one that might be stuck. Think of one that's probably mid-cycle, mid-funnel. Pull up a deal like that and just have that deal in your mind as we go through this. And as I go through these letters, I'm going to be calling out how they play in your deal and giving you some thoughts around that deal so you can, hopefully advance it and close it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make this interactive. We're going to make it fun. I've got probably 45 minutes to an hour of content. We've got an hour and a half. So stop me as we go, raise your hand. Let's make this a good time. All right. So let me advance my slide there. Cool. So just a little bit about me. I've been in some sort of sales or sales leadership role for 15 years. Right now, head of sales LeaseUp. I also have a masterclass on MEDDPICC at meddpicc.co. And I've been a sales coach, podcast person, author, something like that. My whole ethos is I just want to help sellers be better sellers. And I just want to help the sales community do what they do and be happy and do that every single day. So that's me. The other super big passion I have, and Scott mentioned it, I've run a podcast with my wife who has her PhD in psychology called Psych and Sales. I'm a big fan of the holistic, view of a person where I can teach you all you want to know about sales, but if you mentally are not, in a good headspace, you're just not going to be able to deploy it. I've burnt out. I've gone through that type of, really tough leadership and life lessons in sales. And when I was going through those things, I was never my best self, my best seller. So I'm a really big fan of kind of that balanced life. So that's me. Used to travel a lot, been home a lot, but I'm actually starting to travel again. Scott, I'm in Costa Rica next month.
Are you?
Yes, sir. I'm headed to Tabacón.
Just missing you. I'm going in less than a week. less than a week.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So pumped to be starting to travel again. I live in Houston, Texas. I live on the lake, so that's actually a picture of me and my son on our boat. And yeah, those are some things I do for fun. So let's get into some of the meat of this. We'll go to the next one. All right, so there we go. All right, so what is MEDDPICC? So MEDDPICC is a blind spot analysis checklist, if you will. So it is a way to look at one of your deals and determine where some of your gaps are. So I'm just going to really quickly walk through what those letters are. And I look at these as kind of the building blocks of every single deal out there. That's what, Scott, that's why there's 8 letters. So the M stands for metrics. That's how you build your financial business case. Your E stands for economic buyer or buyers. Sometimes there's more than one in our modern buyer environment. The D is decision criteria. That's your client's wish list. Your other D is decision process. That's the business process that they're going to procure your solution. The P is paper process. That's your procurement and legal side of things. Your I is identify pain. And one of the things we're going to go through is, pain is not a single event, but something that you're discovering against every stakeholder in the deal. And then your 2 C's, one of them stands for champion. That's a person selling for you when you're not there. And the other C is competitor. That is both status quo, as well as the competitor that you are directly competing against. So when you're thinking about your deal, one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is just write MEDDPICC out. Use an Excel spreadsheet. Heck, use sticky notes. Totally cool. Whatever works for you, just write MEDDPICC along a side of something. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect the dots to your deal here in a second. So why MEDDPICC? Why is this important? I'll take you guys back a handful of years. I was leading a team at ADP, I was a member of a team at ADP. I was one of the top performers on that team. That team had a close ratio of 38%, and we finished the year at 78%. And a lot of that was, and not to brag, was just deals that I was closing. I raised my hand at the end of the year and said, hey, I love the team. I love the people. I think we can do a lot with it. I'd like to lead it. So that was one of my first big Fortune 250 leadership gigs. I instituted MEDDPICC, same exact team of 5 people, except we were backfilled me. We went from a 38% close ratio to 52%. We had and that was our proposal stage. We had a year 2 finish of 139%. We were actually the #1 team in all of ADP. And ADP is a really, really large sales org. So in 1 year, same people, similar deals, instituted MEDDPICC. We pretty much, doubled all, available metrics and had a 90% close ratio. So to me, those are just some really, really good stats and kind of the impact that I've seen with this. And look, when you learn how to do this right, you can see gaps within your deals within 5 minutes. It just works and is easy. It helps you kind of, and we're all salespeople. We all think we run really good deals. We're all proud of the deals that we're running. But sometimes when you're running something and you're proud of it and it's your baby, it can be hard to see your gaps. It can be hard to see your blind spots. So that's what MEDDPICC is really trying to do, is help you see those, help you drive to next steps. And to me, this fits almost every type of environment that I've seen. So that's why my goal of this session, really help you identify a gap in a deal, increase your chance of winning it, get forecast accuracy better, really just help you close that deal. And by the way, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to be offering a 25% discount using a discount code for any of the folks on my masterclass. So let's kind of jump in to, and I'm getting, hold on. We don't want to go that far. All right. We want to just start, there we go. We want to start with metrics. So again, get out your deal, think about your deal, write MEDDPICC along the side. Think about the lever that your solution pulls to build a financial business case. So those can be things like, and I've got them on the screen here, like time savings, improving revenue, reducing risk, better quality of something. So just think about that lever that your solution pulls. If your solution pulls multiple levers to build a business case, that's even better. Now think about if you've quantified that. So think about your deal and say, do I know the financial or the improvement lever that we're pulling? And have we quantified what that means? So, for instance, say you're saving people time. When you save people time, there's often some byproduct of that, of what would they do with that time? So there's things like lost opportunity costs. There's things like, if I save time, then I don't need to add headcount. And so there's potential, headcount savings or reductions that can take place. There's all these different things, but where a lot of salespeople kind of sometimes miss the mark is like they stop at the metric level and they don't fully quantify what that metric means to a business. So as you're thinking about your deal, you're going to score it red if you don't have the metrics quantified yet on how how you're going to improve their business.
Well, I bet somebody here has a deal in red right now.
Yep, and we all do, and it's okay.
Not okay.
Well, we'll get there. Yellow is when you've got the metric, but you haven't fully quantified it, or it hasn't been validated by an economic buyer. And the reason why that's so important, I think we've probably all been there. We've brought a deal to the table. We've gotten like multiple stakeholders in the deal to say, oh yeah, this is going to improve this by this and this by this. And, it's going to help us and it's going to be great. And then it goes up the chain somewhere and someone up there says, nah, this isn't a priority right now. That's because we often haven't quantified metrics and it hasn't been validated by an economic buyer. So you're yellow until it's validated. And once it's validated, you move to green. So I'm just going to pause there. Anybody have any questions on metrics or any of this type of stuff before we keep going? Okay. So once
wait. I'll have the question.
Yeah.
Just so we can help everybody fully get it. Can you try to give an example of like what it would look like to do it properly so you're in green?
Yep.
What are the questions that you would ask? How do you tie it down and tie it off?
Love
right.
It.
I want to make sure everybody here and on the recording like knows the difference between, good, better, best, or not good, okay, and great.
Yeah. So what best looks like is you've had conversations, you've found a few areas that are key impact. Time savings one, revenue generation. Let's just hit like those two. So you say, oh, I'm going to reduce time by 30%. And they've clearly then said, okay, with that 30% reduction in time, we're going to be able to have these people that are currently spending a lot of time on this process do these things. And so like, let's say it's an IT problem. The team doesn't have bandwidth right now to build our products. So right now, if we were able to save 30%, they could actually get started on building our next gen product a month or two earlier. And we are forecasting the ability to generate, $100 million over the next 5 years with that next gen product once it's built. So you're not just saving someone 30% of time. You've figured out at a senior business level, a key initiative that they're going to be able to do with that time that's going to lead to millions of dollars in future revenue and opportunity. So that's opportunity cost and quantified. Revenue is an easy one. If we're able to help all of your salespeople be a little bit more productive, they can then make more phone calls, set more meetings, therefore close more revenue. And we think we're going to save them X amount of time and lead to Y increase in revenue. Those types of statements validated by someone who makes a decision is what a financial business case looks like. And it normally looks like left side, current state, metrics, right side, future state improvements, value of the gap in the impact that they can have, and then they agree to that. So that's normally what metrics looks like. And a good.
See if we can sneak a question in from Ben here. Ben, I know you're off camera, but can you get your question to David?
Yeah, I was mainly just trying to understand when you know it, but you haven't validated it. It sounds like you can't get it validated from your champion, but it has to be from an economic buyer because they have the authority. So it sounds like first of all, you need to get that meeting, or at very least email, and then ask these kind of questions. But if there's any other sample questions for validating These metrics, that's kind of the main question I have.
Yeah, Ben, and great call out. Exactly right. So a couple things. And I think we've all been there where we've had someone in our deal say, oh yeah, this looks good. And then it gets to, higher up and they're like, oh no, this isn't right. This doesn't really tie to our key priorities. This is what that person cares about, but I'm signing the check and this is what I care about. That's why you're trying to avoid that by, Ben, it's a great starting point to get it validated by your champion. Like they need to agree to it, but ultimately to be really, really secure in the impact you're going to have on a business, the ultimate, decision makers need to also bless it. So some of the plays that you can run to get there. Send them a note with the business case saying, hey, I've been working with ABC. Love to get your eyes on this. Can we schedule some time to review it? Here's a sample of what I'm seeing right now. Love to get your feedback on it. That's one way. Another way, have your champion, hey, in order for this to be successful, this needs to be a win-win for both of us. Can you introduce me to these folks so we can make sure this is validated across your entire business? That's another way. Another way that I really love is the executive sponsor route, where you have a peer. So if you're selling to, a chief revenue officer, you have your chief revenue officer reach out to their chief revenue officer, say, hey, before we form a partnership, we'd love to have, a conversation on the business impact we're going to have, and also open up lines of communication and build a relationship for long-term. Can we schedule some time? And then you prep them, review them with the business case, and like they bring up some of those things and try and get those things validated around executive priority. So like those are a few different plays you can run to get some of these things validated.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Cool.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
What did you do? And I may be jumping way ahead of the map here.
Yeah.
What did you do in those cases where you had the economic buyer on, say, the user level? You have a chief somebody or somebody on a functional level has to take this to the chief executive officer, who this is never on our priority. I just got to be feeling it because you can't save me enough money. You can't do enough to make me want to. We work in the pharmaceutical business with large pharma companies, and we work in the compliance space, which is just about government reports and risk mitigation.
Sure.
It is never, as I've made a joke because I've been in it for a long time, they have to reach up to scrape bottom of the priority list. So this is kind of like we'll get a chief compliance officer going, we need this because of X, Y, and Z, and it's quantified. Take it up to the CEO and that level. They go, come on, give me a break, guys. We got 6 manufacturing plants that we got to deal with. I don't have time for this. Just deal with it.
Yep. So and I think you would agree, sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes you struggle with it, and it just means that's a potential gap in your deal. It doesn't mean you're not going to win. It just means it could be a reason why you lose, and something not being a priority of a budget holder is a risk in a deal.
Oh yeah. And we have found many times that the chief compliance officer, which becomes the economic buyer, if you will, has a budget allocated, but the CEO holds the authority to spend the money. So they can go, here's where I'm going to put my money, and they can get overruled. And that level, when you deal with a Pfizer or a Merck or any of that level is not getting involved in discussions on these deals.
You're 100% right. So that's where, I'm going to do everything I can to make it rock solid for my chief compliance officer. I'm going to get them to validate it. I'm going to make sure that they've got the budget for it. I'm going to hopefully they're the ones that sign it and get approval for it. Mm-hmm. But it just means that I'm going to be a little concerned about the deal until that CEO gives it the blessing.
Right. Because we're always yes, there are competitors, but our big deal is status quo. I'm really not interested in how hard your people have to work because you're not a revenue generating part of this. So just go back in your hole and work. I know I make fun of it, but it's a tough sector to work in.
Yeah, it just.
Well, you're not alone with the sector, Mark. That's been like the number one competitor, if you will, status quo. Or number one objection for me in what I've been doing probably for 7 years now, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually talk about status quo when we get to competitors, and how I always teach people 57% of all deals are lost to competition or lost to status quo.
Right.
And, the way you normally rock people off status quo is you get an economic buyer with a really good business case. Doesn't mean they'll change to you. It just means they'll normally make a change.
What makes this one the challenge? That's why I wanted to listen in and kind of, as Scott said, it is a lot of initials. And it did kind of ring true of a little bit of the Miller Hyman thing. I mean, I'm an old guy, so I'm a blue sheet guy from
Mark. I used to have a blue sheet hanging in my office, so I know.
Yeah. So we're kind of touching some of those bases along the way. There's a couple different ones that are in here, but this is kind of the first sector where status quo is always part of the that you have to fight. That's nothing new. But this is one of the first ones where, on a priority scale, your particular functional area doesn't even show up unless the government is breathing down your neck to say, here comes a fine.
Right.
And just one just to make your head spin. 2 years ago, Novartis, which happens to be one of our customers, but Novartis was fined $650 million by the government on just this risk stuff that they were doing. And I won't go into everything that we do. I could do it probably quickly, but I don't think anybody wants to hear it. They just wrote the damn check.
Yeah.
Now, do you know anybody who gets fined by the government $650 million and just writes the check without an argument, says, okay, you got us. Here's your money.
Yep.
That's it. It's over.
Yeah. No, look,
the risk is baked in. The risk is baked into their business model.
Oh yeah. No, look, you make a really good point. Spot on. It's not saying you can't get a deal. It's just saying, look, you got risk. You got potential risk there. That's all.
We do deals, and I wanted to see if this could help me push through some of that. If there's something I missed from my blue sheets and everything else, that if this could help me push through and maybe win another 10% or 15% over what we win now, that's it. That would be a huge win at the numbers we usually sell at. So
love it. Well, let's see what happens with the rest of it. So, all right. So we've covered kind of metrics. Again, rank your deal. Red, yellow, green. Red is you do not have metrics yet that you know of the impact. Yellow is you've got your metrics down, but they haven't been, validated, or you haven't financially quantified them yet. Green is you've got them, they've been quantified, and they've been validated by an economic buyer. Cool. All right. So next one is economic buyer. So these are this is essentially the person or people that are going to sign your deal. Normally you're looking for, in small companies is you're very much C-suite person. Your medium-sized companies also C-suite, maybe EVP. As you get into really large organizations, that can be EVP or SVP. So you're looking for your kind of your typical buyer. Some traps that you can run into just to, look out for those. There's some people that will puff out their chest and be like, hey, I'm the main decision maker and all of this stuff. Just be wary of individuals like that. Best way to validate those is talk to everybody in the deal saying, hey, I'm hearing, this is kind of going to go through this individual. Is that right? Is this how, your buying process typically goes? You can ask them when you've bought things like this before, who's signed. It's just good to validate those types of things. The other big thing is that sometimes you don't get to those folks. So one of my, strategies as it relates to that is always trying to start with an economic buyer of some sort. Either, have one of your executives reach out to them, or you do it directly. Really good value messaging, really aligned, you've personalized, you've done your homework on their business. Starting at the top of the mountain to me is always better than trying to climb my way up. And I always make a little bit of an upfront contract with whoever that economic buyer is. Hey, I understand I need to work with the broader team, but I'm going to come back to you with whatever I find, and we're going to continue the conversation there. That's often a really good way to kind of start there, understand executive priorities, work with other stakeholders, start building the business case, then bring it back to them. Either way, if you're not working with someone who makes a decision for your opportunity where a budget comes from, you've got some risk in there. And one of the other really good ways to know that is if you're ever hearing, oh, we don't have budget for this. Oh, we want to, get some numbers from you so we can stick into our budget for next year. If you're ever hearing things along those lines, you're not dealing with an economic buyer. An economic buyer can create budget for good ideas. So that's often how I define them. So once again, let's kind of score your deal. Red, you don't know who they are, you're not working with them. Yellow, you think you know who they are. They've maybe been involved in a meeting or two, but they're not actively involved. Green, Green, I can get to them anytime I want. We're on a first name basis. They're involved in our steps. They can put pressure, and this is really important as we get later in the deal. They can put pressure on people to kind of keep things moving. It's a priority for them. That's when you're agreeing with economic buyer. So,
David, let's pause here for a second. Mike Simmons, you want to come off mute? You're probably on like the 14th hole or something right now.
Mike, I was just talking to Mike.
I'm actually on the 15th.
Hey, so, I said 14th. He's on the 15th. That's a pretty damn good guess.
That is good.
But I did start on 15th. So
never mind
David,
that,
sometimes I will say what you just said just to create some space. Because I want to get a sense for numbers. So I will, as a buyer, I will say things like, I don't know if we'll have the budget for it. I don't know where the budget will come from, even though I'm the one who ultimately is making the budget. So how do you overcome that?
You're a unique guy, Mike, and we all know that, and I love you. So how do you overcome that? I haven't ran into that situation very often. Typically, the person that holds the budget is going to be the one, that's puffing their chest out a little bit, or that has a senior title. What I'd often ask there is like, oh, okay, out of curiosity, I see you're, so-and-so in a business. Typically that is the person that holds budget for this. Just out of curiosity, if it's not you, who else would you suggest that we also have conversations with? Doesn't mean we don't want to continue conversations with you. Just really want to talk to everyone that might be involved so we understand holistically how we can help. That's all. So I'll challenge it and ask her to connect me with who else should be involved.
Thank you.
Yep. Scott, Mike and I were literally talking just a few hours ago about sales process. So, thanks, Mike.
Continued conversation. Good stuff.
Cool. Anybody else have anything else around economic buyer? Okay. So again, look at your deal, rank it red. You don't know who they are, or they're just actively not involved in your deal right now. Yellow, you do know who they are. They've been in maybe 1 or 2 meetings, but they're not actively involved. Kind of the relationship isn't there, if you will. You can't just go to them and call them. Green, very consistently involved in your deals. All right. Let's go to the next one. Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, so we should be seeing decision criteria right now. Okay. So decision criteria, that is the wish list of your buyer. So there's normally 2 scenarios here. A deal is coming inbound. And if a deal is coming inbound, decision criteria is like super important because they already have a well-defined project. So one of the first things you should be doing in any deal that's coming inbound is really trying to hone in on what's the project, what's their criteria they're making a decision against. Do they have a scorecard created? This is an active initiative. So understanding that active initiative is key. If it's like most of the business that I've had, and I haven't had a lot of impact in my life, you're trying to create a need and you're trying to create a way that a business can objectively look at you, potentially even look at others and figure out what the right solution is for them. So that's what decision criteria is all about. So in your deal, one of the things that just ask yourself is, do I truly know the criteria that the company I'm working with is evaluating me against? And why that? And then ask yourself, how well does my solution stack against that? For instance, say the company that is looking to buy has 5 key criteria, but your solution does 10. You can immediately in your mind start saying to yourself, well, we're probably going to be pretty expensive comparatively to the field because those other 5 feature functions, things that you all offer that they don't need are going to push your price above what they need. So think that's a really common scenario when you're a mature product with an immature, and I don't mean like personally, just like immature buyer. Like they're on the maturity curve. They don't need a lot of stuff. Flip that. They need 10 things, you offer 5. Well, you may need to now go out and find a strategic partner. You may now need to find someone to close that gap. Because if you have a competitor out there that does all 10 and you only do 5 of those things, well, you've got some risk in the deal to lose it to a competitor. Or there's the Goldilocks scenario where they need 10 things and you offer 10 things and it's kind of a perfect match. In those situations, the criteria is often really good. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing that to keep in mind is, do you really understand it, and have you co-created this criteria with them? So if you ask them, do you have a scorecard? If they don't, be like, you may want to build one. And it's, your key feature function. Hopefully it's things that differentiate you. And so when you're working with them, you can provide them this and say, hey, here's the 10 things we do really well. These 3 are key differentiators. Of those 10 things, what's most important to you? And you're kind of stack ranking them, and you're kind of putting this together in a PowerPoint or something like that. And then you're giving it to them. And hopefully you've differentiated yourself. So when they're going and comparing you against your competition, they can, rank you, and you'll naturally likely rank higher because you've stacked the deck with the decision criteria in your favor. So red is you do not have any sort of agreed upon aligned criteria. You've just had good conversation with them. They've told you some of the things they want to buy, but you haven't actually mapped it all out and truly, without question, know every single thing they want in a solution and exactly how your solution compares to that. That's red. Yellow, you may have some idea of those things, but you're either misaligned or you haven't spoken to everyone and made sure that everything you're offering is what they want to buy. Green is when you're aligned on the criteria, and there is even a little bit of a competitive moat here on how you, and this is where some of the letters like decision criteria and competition start kind of interacting with each other. Green is when you're exactly aligned on what they have. And we see this all the time in software. Like when I was working at Seismic, we had a competitor, HighSpot. HighSpot was great for first-time buyers. Seismic was amazing for large enterprise, super mature clients that wanted everything. We would lose deals to HighSpot all the time, even though our tech was better, because one, we were more expensive, and two, the folks really weren't there yet in their maturity curve. So what we had to do is we had to paint this big long-term vision of that they'd eventually need us in the pain of changing. And then we'd kind of maybe get people to lean in our corner, but it wasn't always the case because we were misaligned on what someone wanted in a solution and what we offered, even though our solution was the best. So again, I'm going to pause, rank your deal, red, yellow, green. But any questions on any of those things before we keep going?
No questions on this part for David?
Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is decision process. So this is your buyer's journey. This is really you understanding when they want to make a decision, everybody involved in the decision. This is where MEDDPICC kind of hits on the modern buyer, where you're trying to understand all the people, so 6 to 8 plus stakeholders. You're hopefully doing discovery with every single one of those stakeholders, and that's going to tie into a letter here in 2, which is identify pain with all those stakeholders. You're understanding their timeline to make a decision. And really, this kind of comes into play often, post demo. There's normally kind of a solution alignment type conversation where they're like, hey, your solution would be really great for us. We really could see it working. And you're asking kind of the question right around that step. Great. Well, ideally, when would you like to be live? And then you're working with them on a backwards timeline, also called a mutual action plan. So the decision process step is very much around that timeline and around that action plan. So once again, I'm going to kind of pause here. If you do not know when they want to be live and you don't have really kind of an agreed upon decision process, that's red. Yellow is we've talked about it. They've said I want it to be live kind of, in the next 3 months, but we haven't really worked through that detailed backwards timeline and mutual action plan. Green is I've got the timeline and it's tracking. This is one of those letters that can go from green to yellow and yellow to green and kind of move back and forth. Because for instance, you could build a mutual action plan, you could be tracking, but all of a sudden something changes. Deal gets stalled, something just happens, and we all have that happen in deals. That's when it can go from green to yellow to even red as you stop progressing in the direction and timeline that you've agreed upon. So what good kind of looks like here is, oh, you want to be live by this date? Awesome. in order for me to get you live by this date, we have a month-long implementation. So you want to be live in 3 months. We have a month-long implementation. It's going to take us a month to get through legal and security review. So we really only actually have 1 month, not 3, to get this done. And in that month timeline, we need to meet with these stakeholders. We need to talk to these people. We need to do these activities. So let's, over the next 4 weeks, have weekly meetings to accomplish those tasks. Then we'll move into legal security review. Then we'll move into implementation. That gets you live in 3 months like you want. And then if they're not progressing in that order, you can go back and kind of hold them accountable to it. So this is where you move. And I like thinking moving from like a salesperson to an advisor or consultant, you're kind of helping them hit their goals on their timelines, and they've established that with you. You've helped them do it. You're now a project manager. So score your deal, again, red, yellow, green, based on that information. Scott, any questions from?
I actually have a question, and then Jill has a question. So let me ask mine maybe first. You said something about, like 6 to 8 people involved in the decision and that kind of thing. And this is one of the reasons why ages ago I sort of tuned it all out, because I spent a long time in my career working in sales that didn't have 6 to 8 different influencers and decision makers and all that stuff. And there's probably people here, including yourself, David, who I think don't have 8 different influencers and people privy to the like buying process. So how does one adjust this for a simpler sale, let's say, where there's less decision makers?
Yeah, and so what's really interesting is a lot of people have challenged MEDDPICC over the years, and almost the reverse, where they're like, it's not complex enough. It doesn't handle the complex buying environment. It only accounts for 1 or 2 decision makers, or a champion, or a economic buyer. And how it's evolved is to account for more, but really you just skinny it down. The whole concept of decision process is really just understanding all the stakeholders that will need to be involved in that process. And what you'll normally find is if you're selling to like startups or small business, normally there's 1 or 2 people. If you're selling to medium-sized companies, like 100 people or 100 to like 1,000, there's probably 4 to 5 people that are involved. If you're selling to enterprise companies, 1,000 or greater, you're probably 6, 8, 10. Shoot, for large strat accounts, you could be 15 or 20 decision makers because you have global leads. So like to me, what we're really trying to do in this stage, and Scott, it's a great call out, is just understand like who's going to be involved, who needs to be involved to make the decision, and just making sure that you've accounted for that and all those people are involved. This is where like decision process and identify pain start colliding as well, because if you've got 2 people in a deal, you want to do discovery with both and understand what both those people care about. If you have 20 people involved in that deal, you want to do discovery with all 20 and understand what they care about. Where some salespeople, just make mistakes as they talk to, call it 50% of the buying group, and they think that speaks for 100% of the buying group. And you just want to make sure that, you're inclusive and talk to everybody, because you may learn something.
Yeah. I understand and agree with that. I agree with all of that, except wanting to talk to 20 people in the buying group. I never met a single person who wants to talk to 20 people in the buying committee. That sounds horrible. Jill,
that's multi-year strategic sales for you right there.
Well, that's why I'm a simple man, and I'm just going to stay that way. Jill, let's go to you.
Yeah. Hey, David. Great stuff. We have one of our reps. We sell a SaaS loyalty software solution. And most of our clients are mid-market enterprise, and most of the leads are inbound. So they're people who really want a loyalty platform. And so we find their pain, match it. There's a sense of urgency, timeline, all of that. We have a map. So we try to enroll them in, doing the map with us. So we send it. That's kind of where it falls apart for me on a lot of my deals. So maybe you answered the question. I'm not talking to enough people that make the decision, but usually there's 5 to 10 people on the calls, and I, develop relationships with them, but I can't really get them to partner on the map. Like they're all dying to be live. Like now it's really funny how they have no sense of their timeline, right? So they all want to be live this year. They all want to be live third quarter. It takes about 3 months to implement our solution. And, we get to even the development meetings, all the tech conversations, and we get to proposal and in a lot of cases contract, but then it kind of just, I don't know if it falls apart at security or it falls apart at various stages, and it feels like it loses its momentum. So I do try to do what you say and have the weekly status calls. That seems to help a lot, but it is hard to get more people on the call than just your economic buyer after the demo call is done, like after they've validated the solution. So a lot of times I've gotten to contract, and then for some reason at the very end, they choose to buy other software first and it gets delayed. So I'm just kind of wondering, if you have the relationship with the larger group for the demo, how do you get everyone involved in the map? Because typically I just work with my main contact at that point once I have
it. No, Joe, great question. And there's a couple layers to this, and different teams buy differently, but normally I'd be asking the question like, is there a point person or kind of project leader for this? And then I'm normally working with a mutual action plan with that project leader.
Do you have a different one if there's a project leader and then there's a tech leader? Because usually it's both the CMO and the CIO or VP of IT or something who are buying, they're both buyers, I guess.
Yeah, and what I'd often do is kind of set something up like an implementation call. And during an implementation call, you normally have multiple stakeholders that are there because they need to be involved in different parts of the implementation. Right. So when we set up an implementation call, and I'll use a mutual action plan at the start of the implementation call. And I'll say, hey, look, here's where we are. Here's how long implementation takes. We're going to go through and detail what implementation looks like. But hey, before we can even get to implementation, these are the steps we're going to need to go through. And I have a live kind of co-create collaboration session with those stakeholders. And then we get into the more formal implementation call. And that typically works really well.
Yeah, that's terrific. I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else have anything here on decision process?
Nothing lined up. Keep going.
Cool. All right. So paper process. So MEDDPICC originally was MEDDPICC, then it was MEDDPICC, then it was MEDDPICC, and then it was MEDDPICC. So it became MEDDPICC. The P here is really what has differentiated and evolved MEDDPICC into the state that it's in. The reason why the P for paper process was created is that in often larger deals, when we get to forecast accuracy, there is a fundamental difference between a business process and a legal process. And often in large complex deals, your legal process can take, potentially a couple months. Mark, your legal process is probably like 3 to 6 months. So, as you're thinking about those things, like you really need to understand that to forecast accurately, because the business side of the house could say, we're ready to go. We want to buy your solution. Let's start security review, and let's start you with procurement. And from that point, and you're telling your boss, things are great. They're going to do business with us. This is this quarter deal. Everything is good. We got it. And then you eventually figure out that this just drags on and on and on and pushes and pushes and pushes. And you update your forecast, 11 times, and eventually you get the deal. What we're trying to do with the paper process is to update your forecast once, and then you don't have to change it. So this is where you get to 90% forecast accuracy, is right here in the paper process. So this is typically right around the time where you're submitting a proposal, you're getting on the phone, and normally your business contact, your procurement contact are there. Oftentimes it's not legal, it's normally those two, but sometimes there's other stakeholders. And this is where you need to almost do a mutual action plan, just like you do with the business side of the decision process, specific to the legal and procurement side of your deal. And this is where you're asking things like, How long does security review take? How does your vendor risk analysis take? From a legal perspective, how many deals are they working? Are they inside, outside counsel? What priority are we? How long do these things, how long does legal normally sit with it? How long do you in procurement normally sit with it? Are there anything that you're going to ask for that we can't do? For my SaaS folks on the line, unlimited liability, termination for convenience. Those are some nonsense clauses that we get hit with too often that we just won't do. Getting some of those things out in the open early, like it's that type of stuff. And you're essentially then going through, again, a mutual action plan with them where you're like, okay, well, look, I know you care about the business side. They don't. And they would like to be live by this date. Procurement doesn't care, but you say it anyways. What I'm hearing from you is that your legal review process takes a month, your security review process takes a month. Normally you in procurement to review business terms and do negotiation takes 2 to 3 weeks. Let's add some time in there for, holidays and nonsense to happen. So what we can look for is probably this deal getting done in 3 months. Does that sound right? And that's when you're getting aligned. And now you can, forecast accurately based on what they say. And then, by the way, you're holding them accountable to those timelines. You create weekly touch meetings to see how things are progressing. And this is where a few things align. One, it's good to have an economic buyer. If you have your economic buyer well teed up in this, you can get them to put pressure on their team. And if things start going off track, this is where they can come in and help you get things back on track, because ultimately they needed the solution to get the business case validated that you've created with them. And the longer it delays, the more money they lose. I've even created something called the daily lost revenue calculator, where once you get an agreed upon revenue number, business impact financials with a economic buyer, I take whatever that number is, you divide it by 250. There's 250 working days of the year. That is your daily lost revenue. For every day they don't sign a contract, they lose that much money. So when procurement tells you it's going to take 3 months, you go back to your economic buyer and say, hey, your procurement team is telling us to take 3 months. We're cool waiting. It's no big deal. But in that timeline, you're going to lose $300,000. And our solution costs $300,000. So maybe we want to accelerate this. So daily loss revenue is a great way to create urgency, get your economic buyer involved, drive that. A couple other things that is a common trap. You have to expect price negotiation. And we all know when we say it, but one of the things that we sometimes get hit by is, hey, is our business, contact. It's like, look, we really want to move forward with you guys, but your price is too high. We can't move forward with y'all unless it gets to here. That's a really common one. Oh, your competitor came in, just threw a price at us. Can you guys match it? All those things are going to happen. One of the things I always teach people is you say to your business contact, look, we don't negotiate price this early because we know your procurement team is going to beat us up, and whatever price we give you, we know that they're going to want less. So we really want to be careful. We want to understand holistically every ask that you have before we address any individual ask. We also want you to understand that we'll get where we need to get for you all to be able to procure this. But we really want to focus on you making the right business decision, picking the right solution for your business. We hope it's us. And when we ultimately get there and we are the right solution, we'll happily work with procurement to get where we need to get to. Also, you're also asking the question, are we your top choice? If you're not their top choice, you pause, you step back, you say, hold on. Clearly, you've fallen short. I've made a mistake in this process. If we're not your top choice, I want to get to a place where we are. Because otherwise, it's just a race to the bottom on price. And what they're likely doing is using you as a stalking horse to beat up your competitor, which is a fun game to play, but ultimately, we're just wasting a lot of time. So that is how you handle the paper process and a few kind of key things there. So red, likely you're not at that stage in the deal, but if you're at the stage where you're talking to procurement, if you don't know these things, you're red. Yellow is some of these things, but you're not well aligned, or you got aligned and you're good, but you're no longer tracking, you're slipping backwards. That's when you're pulling in your economic buyer and doing things like that. Green, the timeline, it's agreed upon, you're tracking to it, you're all set. So once again, I'll pause. Any questions from the group? Cool. All right. So let's score our deals and let's move on to identify pain. So
I can't wait for the volunteer that's going to bring in a deal and offer up their scorecard. Kaylee, it's going to be you. Oh yeah, you owe me.
I'm doing okay so far, so
that's good. You can still be the example.
I love it. That's good. Okay, so identify pain. This is primarily centered around good discovery. Discovery is not a step in your sales process. We as salespeople are always discovering more. Where I really teach people to hone in on discovery is really thinking about it at the persona level. If you have just one discovery template, just rethink that. If you sell to 5 decision makers or 5 types of buyer personas or 3 or 2, but you only have one template, you haven't niched it down enough. So the other thing to really think about here from a discovery perspective is, are you truly doing discovery and restarting the discovery process with every new stakeholder that enters your deal? One of the things that commonly happens is we sometimes struggle to get to, say we learn that there's, to Scott's point, an ungodly amount of decision makers, say there's 10. And we've, had 7 join meetings. And those 7 that have joined meetings, we've done discovery with every single one of them. But we know there's 3 that we haven't. Sometimes as salespeople, we just ignore those 3. One of the things I always teach people is you need to be proactive about reaching out to everyone you know is involved in the deal and having one-on-one discovery-based conversations with them. Great way to build champions. It's actually the best way to build champions. We're going to talk about that really in the next slide around intentionally building champions. But are we proactively going after these folks? Reason for that is if you're not, the 3 people that haven't showed up to those meetings that are part of the decision, they're probably rooting for your competitor. Or something else has happened. There's a reason they didn't show up. I'd want to know why. And, hopefully you do too. So to me, curiosity, great salespeople are always curious. I'm always trying to find new stakeholders that are going to in some way benefit or touch my deal or be part of the decision process and restart discovery with them. Because what you'll sometimes find is that, I may be a functional individual leading this group and your solution impacts me this way, but this person are going to interact with your solution differently. And the things they care about and what can help them is different than some of those others. So really understanding everybody involved and doing discovery with each individual and building your discovery templates to account for that, that's where you're really starting to identify pain. Pain and metrics are tied. So pain is like, here's the problem I have. Metrics are the quantification of that problem that will ultimately lead to a financial business case. So pain and metrics are always tied. And pain and decision criteria are often tied together in the sense that I have this problem, here's how I want to solve it. What's really key about that is if they have this problem, call it a pipeline problem, and you sell an outsourced SDR solution, but they want to buy a sales engagement tool like Outreach, you solve the problem just like they solve the problem. Or you solve the problem, but you solve it differently than they want to solve the problem. That's something that needs to factor into your decision criteria. So you got to get them to wrap their head around, oh no, there's a different way to do it. That's something also you need to be uncovering different levels of pain with them. So maybe you can shift them in different directions, but in either way, you need to understand that. That's identify pain. We have a Sandler person on the line, Scott. I think that was you that said I threw out Sandler. The thing I do like about Sandler's really good about getting to multiple layers of pain all the way down to personal and professional wins. You're normally not going to get a professional win level of pain on a big call, but you will get it one-on-one with someone. And that's how you flip them to a champion, is you're understanding their personal levels of pain. But
that's a great point that I hope everybody pays a lot of attention to. You won't get a big win on a big call, but you'll get that in like a one-on-one kind of situation. That's a really, really good point.
Thank you. And that's one of the ways we intentionally build champions, and we'll get there next. But any questions on identify?
Yeah, we got a question from Ben again. Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, this is actually back to the economic buyer one.
Yeah.
But how do you not, I sell the data engineers, and so I'd be going up to their boss, director of data engineering, or up to the CTO sometimes. How do I not offend them by doing that? Obviously, you can get their permission and they can be a good champion and bring that person in. But how do you go above them in a good way?
No, man, and it's such a good point, such a good question, because I've been there. I think everyone on this phone has been there, where you need to get these people involved, and you've reached out to them yourself, and it's crushed your relationships, or it's caused friction, or like, there's often challenges there. So there's a couple plays I really like to run. One of them is I often will create a slide, and my slide will actually show and teach people how to buy my solution. And what that slide looks like is, here are the things we're going to do in the journey together. Here's who's typically involved in that. Normally there's your first meeting is with these key people, and we understand problems. Then there's normally people that implement the solution, IT team leads or folks like that we want, identified, and we want to have these types of conversations with them. Then these are often going to be the people that, so you kind of map out that journey. And then on that slide, you have those different folks, and you're like, hey, at some point, these individuals likely could get involved. That's normally right around the business case review conversation. You let them know up front, that's going to be part of the process. You're going to build it together. You're normally going to get that person, you have their title on the slide. So when you go to do that, you hearken back to that slide and be like, look, this is just a normal part of our process. You didn't say that was a problem. That's one. Normally what the reason why you do that proactively is when you're doing it kind of reactively, people start feeling challenged. Like, you don't trust I can get this done, or you don't think I'm the guy or gal or person. Like, it's that. And if you just show, hey, this is part of our process, it disarms the whole conversation. And now it's like, you're getting in the way of me helping you successfully buy. That's one way. Another way is, I'm a huge fan of the executive alignment play. So another way is, you have say you're selling to a CTO. You have your CTO send a note. Hey, I was doing a forecast review with my team. I noticed, your organization was part of it in a later stage of the process. I make it a point to reach out to peers of mine when we started looking at forming a potential partnership to build a strategic relationship. Love to have a conversation with you. And you kind of do that without the individual copied on it. And if it ever causes blowback, it's just like, they didn't mention that to me. It was just my executive reaching out to their executive. I can't control my executive. So like, there's different plays you can run that are, depending on how you're feeling about it, like that. Those are two good ones I like.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else have anything on identify pain?
It's my favorite one.
Awesome. All right. So, once again, score your deal, red. You don't really understand the pain. And one way to even, talk about this is that if the pain you're solving for is exactly the same as every other company you've ever worked with, you may want to dig into pain more. Yellow is
say that one more time, David.
Yep. If the problem you're solving, the pain you're solving for is exactly what you've solved for everybody else, you don't really probably understand the pain. And what I mean by that is pain should be a degree of customized. Like it should be unique to them. It's not like, oh, you're trying to save time. Yeah, we saved you time. Great. Let's be friends. It's like, what does that time really mean? Like, why are you trying to save it? What would you do with it? And
I think I'm guilty of that sometimes. I think I get lazy sometimes.
Yeah, we all do. It happens, man.
I'm feeling attacked right now.
I'm sorry. This is a safe place. Thank you for sharing with me. I still love you.
You're welcome.
Wait,
hold on. We got a question. Kaylee, go for it.
Yeah.
I just have a question. So do you feel like metrics are just like the ultimate impact of getting to the pain? Like, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding the difference between implicate the pain and metrics, because ultimately isn't that the implications of pain is what you're saving them or what it's costing them?
So it's a great question. To me, metrics are pain quantified. So you've got like the problem statement, which is pain. And then you've got the quantification of it that leads to a financial impact as the outcome of the metric. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah, that makes sense. They definitely are correlated.
Yeah. Oh no, super correlated. Absolutely. And yeah, my second bullet there, like I totally validate that. Like, yeah, pain and metrics, like you have to have those two things combined. Okay. So yellow, you understand the pain, but you don't understand it for everybody. And you haven't validated it. A great way to validate it is you put people's faces on a slide. And I love doing this. And you put the problems that they have next to them. And then like I've had multiple pages of iterations of that. And so when you then go and meet with them again, hey, this is what I heard. You individual picture problems that you're trying to solve with this. You individual problems you're trying to solve. Did I miss anything? Did I capture that all? What else is there? Once you do that with all stakeholders involved, that's when you're getting to green. Cool. All right. So once again, red, yellow, green, the deal. Let's move to the next one. This is champions. So your champion is defined as someone who is selling for you when you are not there. This is not a friend. This is not someone that likes you. This is not someone that's a quote unquote, influencer, mobilizer. I'm going back to my Miller Hyman blue sheet days.
Wait. If you've done a good job, isn't it possible that they actually do like you?
I hope they do. But they have to be willing to stick their neck out for you.
Yes.
So I've built a lot of people who like me that actually most people don't like me, but the people that do like me, it doesn't mean that they're going to be there and willing to, risk their career for me or really stick their neck out. Because that's what a lot of, when you're thinking about the multiple buyer environment that we're living in, they did that because no one person wanted to take full responsibility for implementing your solution, because if it failed, they'd get fired. So they tried to, create a committee. So it's failure by committee now, not by one individual. So it's not just the person who likes you. It's the person that has often access to power, that is willing to stick their neck out for you, that is selling for you when you're not there. So what you're really looking for, and you need to have a process for intentionally building champions. The best process for intentionally building champions is when you have a demo with somebody or a group of people, and then you call every single one of them after that meeting. And you say, hey, I'd love to spend 15, 30 minutes with you. We talked about a lot of things, but I'd love to understand your world and how they help you. And you pull all of them aside, and then you start understanding personal and professional wins for those individuals. That is where real champions are built, is not during the meetings, but in between the meetings. So you then need to test them, and you can test them. And depending on who you're selling to, if they understand what a champion is, like I've sold to salespeople, you can ask them, are you willing to be my champion? If you are, great. Can you help me prep for meetings? Can you tell me who else is involved in this deal? Like they'll tell you who you're competing against and the pros and cons. They'll help you prep, they'll help you debrief, they'll help you build a business case, they'll help you get to all the right stakeholders, but you have to test them. You may not be able to be as overt as saying, will you be my champion?
What's a good way to test that rather than being so overt as you called it?
Yeah, you can say things like, hey, this seems to be something that's really going to help you in your business. And then yes, do you think we're the right partner for you? Yes. I'm sure you're talking to others. Do you see why we're, maybe the best solution based on everything we've learned? Yes. Okay. So we're in agreement that my solution is the right solution for your business. And even though you're talking to others. Yes. Awesome. Who else are you talking to?
Yeah. I like that. I love asking that. Who else are you talking to out there?
Yeah. And you're kind of just like walking someone down that path. It's like, you don't just, that's not the first question. That's the third important thing. And then it's like, cool. Can you help me prep for a meeting? Hey, am I talking to all the right people? Or is there somebody else I've missed? You're asking all of those questions, and you're testing them, and you kind of need to continuously test them, because sometimes what happens is your champion sticks their neck out for you, they get smacked, and they're no longer your champion. But if you still think they are, you got some risk there. So it's it's ongoing. So
I got a follow-up question from Nat.
What's up, Nat?
You there, Nat? There he is.
Yep. Sorry, I was on mute. So, this question is based on I think what Kaylee asked here. So I talked to CFOs. I kind of jumped in right in there. I had a long day. David, Scott, thanks for hosting this. So I talked to CFOs a lot, and in some situations, I kind of run into a wall where I'm trying to quantify the pain. I mean, if I'm asking a CFO saying, hey, all right, what do you mean by time savings, right? And what does it mean for your company and all that? And the answers are vague. I want to deep dive more. And obviously, if I'm talking to someone lower, I mean, a level below that, I'll find a way to kind of talk to the CFO. But now in this case, CFO is the one who doesn't know. And I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Have you kind of been through such situations, or is there a way around on maybe asking the right question some other way?
Yeah, and there's a couple angles here. It's a great question. One of them is like, okay, hey, totally respect that you don't know. Is there someone that does? So I'd ask that. That's my first. If they're like, no, nobody knows. Oh, well, hey, look, we typically build business cases. The reason I'm asking those questions, I want to build a financial business case with you to help you justify and prioritize our solution. If you don't know the answers to these traditional questions, let's just go backwards. Why would you buy our solution then? What impact are you seeing? What are you trying to accomplish with it? And then, okay, well, if that's like, what value do you see then? How would you justify this? If you were going to go present this solution to the board and say, we're buying this piece of product for these reasons, what are those reasons, and what long-term value do you think it will have for you? So you kind of just reframe it there. They may not be able to answer the traditional out-of-the-box questions, but if they're going to buy from you, if they're a CFO, they're financially driven. They're in their mind, they're quantifying this. They have to be. But they may not be quantifying it the way you're quantifying it. So you just need to understand what's in their mind. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the business case, one, doesn't need to be right. It just needs to be agreeable. And two, they just need to see some level of value that outweighs the cost of your solution. And you just need to get that out of them. And however you get there, it's fine.
Gotcha. Love that. Okay. Thanks. Thank you for that.
Yep. Cool. Anybody else have anything on champions? Almost there, folks. One last letter. Yes, Ben.
David, the business case doesn't need to be right. It just needs to validate their solution. Is that what you said?
I thought someone would pick up on that.
Can you dig in? I had to listen to that back in my head for a minute and go, huh. So I'd love to hear more about that.
So this is, I love using liners like this because I've used that line for a long time.
Okay.
Business case doesn't need to be right. It just needs to be agreeable.
Oh,
That's really good. That's a great line.
That is awesome.
And here's the reason for that. I have never built a correct business case. In 15 years of selling and thousands of business cases, they've never been right. Now, they've been better. They've been worse. They've been darn close, but they've never been perfect. I've never said to someone, I'm going to give you a $1.237 million ROI and have them get bang. Like they've never hit it perfect. Because you know what? Shit's going to happen in their business. You guys are going to make a mistake. They're going to make a mistake. Something's going to get delayed. They're going to have turnover. Enterprise in any company, it will never go perfectly. It'll never go according to plan. There's always going to be something. So instead, what it needs to be is agreeable. And what that means is I think I'm going to get you a 10x ROI. You think I'm going to get you a 3x ROI. 3x is still good enough to get this deal done. It's good enough for me. If we agree on 3x, I'm cool with that.
Love it.
A lot of people make the mistake that the business case has to be perfect. And it's just like, it just needs to be good enough that someone's willing to stick their neck out and say, I believe this and I'm willing to stand by it. And that's often a very de-risked version of what you'll actually do for them. Because smart people will de-risk that because they don't want to be on the hook for the bigger number.
Wait. Say that part again a little louder. You kind of mumbled that part.
Sorry. Yeah. Smart people will always try and de-risk your deal because they don't want to be on the hook for the bigger number.
Smart people will always try and de-risk your deal because they don't want to be on the hook for the bigger number.
Yep.
That's pretty good. Got a lot of one-liners, David. This is great.
I live my life one line at a time. All right. That was a riff on Fast and Furious right there. Anyways, Ben Anderson, I think you had a question as well.
I'm trying to come up with another question. I just run into testing my champions all the time because the data engineers love the features, but then the business people are like, why are we paying for this? You could build it yourself. And the data engineers sometimes want to build it themselves because they're into that. And so I I'm like always finding ways to test champions. So I don't have a question, but if you have anything else to say on this, I'm listening.
On that, so I one of the gigs I had was strategic outsourcing, and people always wanted to build it themselves. So what I did is I created a build versus buy document, and what it normally would net out to is it's going to cost you the same amount of dollars per year to staff it and execute it annually as it was for me. The difference was I'm going to be more flexible. I'm going to get it stood up in 3 months, and it's going to take you a year or two. And you know, there's a level of guarantee, if you will, because I'm not going to deal with the turnover and the vacations and all the potential people nonsense. It's my job to solve for all of that as an outsourced provider. If you don't have a build versus buy that very clearly states exactly the cost, the time, the risk of failure, what else they could do with that time while they're building this other thing that you offer versus what you could have up to them and this amount of time for this cost. I can't tell you how many deals a single build versus buy slide has won me just by getting them to visualize that.
That's definitely part of it. So thank you.
Yep. Cool. All right. I appreciate you all sticking with me. We've got one last slide. That's competition. All right. So as we were talking about earlier, 57% of all deals are lost to status quo. You beat status quo, good business case, validated by an economic buyer. If you build a good business case and an economic buyer agrees with it, often an organization will make a change. It doesn't mean they're going to make a change to you. It just means they're going to make a change. Then once they've decided to make a change, how you differentiate and create a moat around you versus your competition is why they then pick you. So I'm a big fan of creating battle cards. I'm a big fan of putting my competitors in a box. I'm a big fan of this concept of landmines. And what that essentially is, and I'll give you just an example. When I was working for Outreach, SalesLoft was a big competitor. So what we would say is, hey, look, SalesLoft is a great competitor. They validate our space. One of the things that we noticed is that SalesLoft has really created a fantastic solution for the mid-market. Their solution, one of the things you'll kind of want to look out for is some data integration, as well as UI UX. So as you scale, what you're going to run into is potential data validation issues with Salesforce. The reason why people pick Outreach is they're looking for an enterprise-grade solution that can go global, that is more secure, that has a UI UX that both can scale between your SDRs, but also your AE team, that has tighter levels of integration to make sure your data is always accurate. Based on our conversations, I believe you fit into this box with us versus that box with them. And then frankly, if you were more of a company like that, I would absolutely recommend that you do pick them. But because of what I've learned, I do think we're a good fit. Something like that is putting your competitor in a box. Not saying anything bad. All those things were facts. They're verifiable. They could freaking go ask SalesLoft, and that was the intention. The intention was to state those things so they'd go say, hey, hold on a second, Outreach is telling me this. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And they'd go tell them more about that and blow up in their face, and they'd come back and say, oh yeah, you were right. So creating battle cards, putting your competitors in a box, that to me is good competitive stance. And one of the things that Gartner talks about all the time is this concept of decision fatigue. So I've talked to 15 vendors, you guys all sound alike, and the concept of nuance. So the best salespeople know their competitors as well as they know themselves, and they can really clearly call out the nuance, the tiny differences that directly then tie to a better business case and solving problems and pain and criteria and all those things. They can really tie those together well. So red, yellow, green. Red, I don't know who I'm competing against. By the way, it's always status quo. So if you haven't built a good business case with an economic buyer, you probably have some red in there, maybe some yellow. Yellow, I know who I'm competing against, but the company I'm selling to hasn't told me I'm their top choice, or doesn't believe the differentiators I'm telling them, or I haven't been able to properly put my competition in a box. Green is, I've put my competition in a box, they believe that we're well differentiated, and they see the value specifically in a partnership with us. That's when you're green. All right, so anybody have any questions on competition?
I don't have a question on that one, but now I have a question on the totality of it all, of all of it. There we go.
Done this once or twice, Scott.
Go for it.
All right. So hopefully you all have scored your deals. Once again, the purpose of red, yellow, green is to really understand where you have the most risk in your deal. I'm not saying you won't win your deal. Please don't take it that way. I'm just saying this is an area that you potentially could get bitten by. So how these normally play out, red is normally you don't have the information at all. Yellow is you normally have some of the information, but it's not validated. The validation step is so key because look, I've been in sales a long time. So have you all. We all get happy years. We all think that our deal is great and we're good. But until I talk to stakeholders, ask the right questions based on the step that I'm in, it's truly assumptions. And I'm really trying to remove assumption from your deal and get to a point where you say, I know. And when you say I know, means I know it and it's been validated by the people that need to validate it. And it's still tracking to the outcomes that we've agreed upon or that I'm looking for. That's when you get to green. So there's various ways to do this. You can use MEDDPICC on sticky notes. Trust me, I use sticky notes all the time. When I'm talking and coaching people, I'll normally have a sticky note and I'll just write MEDDPICC along the side and I'll ask them lots of questions. And I'm just red, yellow, greening. I'm looking for reds. We're talking about plays. Yellow, talking about plays. Green, I'm just kind of ignoring. You can put it in Salesforce, in my own Salesforce environment. I have it there for my reps. It's even gated, so you need certain things at certain stages. But the most important thing is like, folks, MEDDPICC is not for your leader. It's not for your business. MEDDPICC is for you. And the people that have been most successful adopting it have really leaned into it for themselves. And I can tell you right now, personally, like I've 2x my income from when I started using MEDDPICC to now, just by doing this alone. And there's other things there, but I've yet to find a better way to objectively look at any opportunity and see gaps quickly that I then can do something about. So thank you all for listening. I'd love to flip it back to the audience and you, Scott.
So 8 out of 8 is obviously ideal and should be the goal.
Yes.
In your experience, is there a floor where it's like, listen, if you don't get at least 5 out of the 8, you're never fucking closing one of these deals?
I don't know if I've seen a floor, but I have seen happy years where someone's like, oh, I got 7 of 8, I'm good. But the one they're missing is a validated business case, and all of a sudden their deal gets deprioritized. Or, they've got 7 out of 8, but they didn't have a champion in there and their competition did. And all of a sudden, like, they got the inside track. Like, they didn't know who they were competing against and lost because they weren't able to properly differentiate. Like, to me, the purpose of MEDDPICC is to see a blind spot and see risk. I'm a super risk adverse guy. I want to know what's coming at me, and I want to do everything I can to de-risk every opportunity I have so I increase my chance of winning it. So there's no like floor, there's no scoring. So many people have tried to score MEDDPICC, and I've told them the same thing. Like, so let's weight everything at 10. You're 70 out of 80. You think your life's great, but all of a sudden your deal just blew up, and it's because of the one gap you had. So to me, like, my job is always to do everything I can to get everything to green, or just, close the gaps and control what I can control.
Helpful. That was a classic salesperson question, trying to weasel away to do the minimum and still succeed.
This is about doing the maximum and winning. So Scott, you were a doubter of MEDDPICC going into this. This is a risky question to ask, but now that you've seen it, you see the value in it? What do you think?
My initial reaction is, I don't really know why I hated it so much, to be honest with you. Now that's how I feel. It makes a lot of sense. I still stand by, like, 8 steps is like a lot. And I think some of my aversion or bristling was, this feels very like enterprisey. And I, for at least the first half of my career, didn't spend time in that world like at all.
Yep.
So I'm just like, this is all way too complicated, way too many steps, takes too long, my deals are like bang, bang, bang. So this was eye-opening though. And I find myself wanting to hate it and disagree with you. And I can't, unfortunately.
Oh man, that's a huge compliment.
It's a big win.
Truly appreciate it.
It's a big win for you.
It is. I appreciate that. Yeah. The reason I keep coming back to it, and I've seen lots of methodologies in my life, is that it's complete. Like I can look at any single deal, and these are the building blocks of it.
Yeah.
But MEDDPICC complete.
Ben just made a hilarious comment. He just said MEDDPICC is basically 8 ways you can get screwed in your deal. I like that.
I like that too.
That should be your post tomorrow on LinkedIn, Ben.
I love that.
Rip it up. Larry has a question. We'll go to Larry and then we'll let you kind of wrap up, David, and we'll try to get everybody out of here.
Ben, I'll share the heck out of that.
Real quick, David, you mentioned a while ago that one of the steps you didn't have what you needed. And then you think, are any of these steps weighted more important than the others? Are they all equally important?
The party line is they're all equally important. What I'll tell you is a validated business case is one of the most powerful tools in a salesperson's arsenal. With a validated business case, you can go anywhere. You can do a lot. You can get to the right people. You can force momentum with the daily loss revenue thing is like one of my favorite things of all time. Like I love teaching people that because like once you can calculate daily loss revenue, you can push. So I would say a validated business case, an economic buyer, those to me are probably my 2 go-tos, but they are all critical and a miss on any single one could really bite you. But those are probably my 2 favorite.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. If you have a business case and understanding of that, the rest of it seems to fall apart if you don't have that one piece of that puzzle. So I just want to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, no, I think you're thinking about it right. They're all important. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I agree with you.
Thanks a lot. Great information. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right, David, any parting thoughts as you bring us on out of here? We have a couple people asking if you could send me a copy of this deck. I'll see what I can do to weasel it out of you later on.
As a salesperson I am, I do not give that out unless you buy my class, but you do have the recording. So you could just like listen to me again.
There you go. There you go. That seems fair. That seems fair to me. Get us on out of here. Any parting shots, parting thoughts?
I really just appreciate y'all spending your evening with me. Thank you. You will see a discount code in there, MEDDPICC for SL, Mr. Scalise. You have your own discount code now.
I like that.
You will get 25% off. Essentially, you'll save $50 on the class. So you go to meddpicc.co, MEDDPICC.co. It's 4 hours of me. I know you have to sit through 4 hours of me, but it is essentially a deep dive version of this. Where we get way deeper is in the information to accurately figure out red, yellow, green. And I also talk a lot about plays you can run to close those gaps. So what you need to do about that red, yellow, green. And then I also talk about some building blocks that you need to have to make MEDDPICC even better, like, building certain types of templates and things like that behind the scenes. But that's it. This is not a sales pitch. If you want to dig deeper in that, do that. If you run into any troubles, let me know. But otherwise, I just really appreciate you listening to me and giving me some time. So thank you all.
All right. Thanks again, everybody, for coming to Tequila Tuesday. We will see you all next time. Thanks, David.
Thank you.